guys, welcome to Baking and Books. My name is Lexi and I'm an amateur baker who loves to read. So each week I post videos of myself attempting to bake something new while also talking about a book that I have recently read or just really love. This week, in the spirit of Christmas, I'm going to be trying gingerbread cookies. I'm really excited to try these because I know it's a little bit more difficult than regular cookies, and of course, who doesn't love gingerbread around the holidays? And we're going to be talking about The Bad Beginning, which is book 1 for the series of unfortunate events. I'm so excited to get into this with you guys. If you follow me on Instagram, then you already knew this was coming, but this is one of a lot of people's favorite book series from childhood, so I'm really excited to go back through, especially with adult eyes, and kind of see how it looks and experience all of that with you guys. It's been quite a while since I read these, so I'm pretty excited to dive into it. I do want to take a quick second before we get started to apologize for my delayed videos the last couple of weeks. I'm having an issue on YouTube where it refuses to let me upload. The video just sits there at 0% for pretty much forever. I have not gotten it to go even to 1%. No matter how long. I've tried different Wi-Fis, my home, my office. I've tried different things and it's not working. However, if I can get it to my phone, then I'm usually okay and I can upload it from my phone. But everything is done on my laptop, so getting it from my laptop to my phone is not really an easy feat. Now that it's happened 2 weeks in a row and I have let YouTube know about it, I'm hoping it will either resolve itself or I'll be more aware of it for this week. So hopefully you're seeing this on Wednesday as I intended. If you know why this might be happening to me, I would love some advice. This has never happened in the almost year that I've been doing this. It just started a couple of weeks ago. So if you have any advice, I would love to hear from you. YouTube hasn't gotten back to me, so I have no idea what the problem is. Could be my Mac, could be the video file itself. I'm not really sure, but it seems to be uploading okay on my phone, so at least we're getting them out there. I just wanted to take a minute to apologize because I like to be on the same day every week, and I'm sorry that that hasn't been happening. However, hopefully it will happen next week, and let's go ahead and get started. Alright, now I know that a lot of people are super familiar with Series of Unfortunate Events, but bear with me while I do a synopsis anyway, just in case there are people out there who have not read them or seen any of the affiliated works of film and television. Okay, so I have been making a mess with flour since day one. The problem is that opening these bags are not easy. Like, I know some of you are looking at me like, honey, it is not that difficult. But it is. They make it so difficult to open these bags. And so then you end up having this mess where you have like a torn bag and so it doesn't dip easily and everything's in the dishwasher. And I'm just like, okay, this is not a strong start, but let's try again and pretend that I'm going to do better around the second time. I'm going to do better the second time around. Okay, so the Series of Unfortunate Events is about the Baudelaire Children. There are 3 of them, Violet, Klaus, and Sunny. They are very intelligent, lovely children, and unfortunately, one day they find out that their parents have died in a fire that destroyed their entire home. So they lived in this really nice, really beautiful, and elegant home in some unknown city. Like, it's a city, we don't know what it is. It's not like, oh yeah, in London or whatever. Like, it's not, it's not named. And now their whole house, all their possessions, and of course their lovely, wonderful parents are gone. So they are being essentially taken care of by Mr. Poe, who was their parents' attorney. And it's his job to make sure that they get to the right people to raise them. Now, their parents did something a little bit different than most parents, I would guess, do. I mean, try not to judge these like poor dead characters, but I'm judging them a little bit. I'll get into more of that later. But they decide that they want their children to be with their closest relative or associate so that the children can continue to grow up near their home and like in a place that they recognize. Which on the outside is kind of lovely and a nice thought. The problem is that they don't really count on who's actually around them and the ridiculousness that said person will go to infiltrate their family. So they end up going to live with Count Olaf, whom they've never met or heard of. So, too much in that bag. So they're skeptical that this person actually even knows them or their parents, but this is what their parents wanted, so they're doing their best to be optimistic about it. But Count Olaf is a very greedy, horrible person who they find out very quickly is only after their fortune. The Baudelaire family had a lot of money, and when their parents died, they left them quite a bit. The problem is that they can't touch it until the oldest sister, Violet, turns 18, which is pretty normal, I guess I would say. I mean, I'm not a legal person, but that would be my guess that that's fairly normal. However, Count Olaf is pretty much more than determined to get his hands on it. So he somehow figures out how to essentially adopt them or be their foster parent for the time being. But the children soon discover that his real plan is to get their money. However, he is very clever and they're having a hard time proving it. So, spoiler alert, this whole series is about the kids avoiding Count Olaf. He's the bad guy, he wants their money, and regardless of where they go, he always seems to be able to hunt them down. But right now, they're in his clutches in his home. So they have to figure out a way to avoid his evil plans and somehow figure out how to survive, even though pretty much all of the adults in their life are totally incompetent. So that is pretty much it. That is the synopsis. That's honestly kind of a synopsis for the whole series, quite frankly. But it is the synopsis for book 1. So, if you haven't read these books, seen the films, seen the TV show, and you don't want things spoiled for you, then go ahead and skip forward until it says no more spoilers, and you can see how our gingerbread cookies turned out. If you have already read these books, seen the movie, seen the TV show, then stay with me, and we're going to dive in a little bit deeper into my thoughts on this very strange series. Now, like I mentioned before, one of the things is, like, it's going to be different, I think, looking at this from the eyes of an adult. I mean, the first time that I read these, I actually was a little bit older. I didn't get into them as a child like a lot of people did. I probably didn't get into them until after that movie with Jim Carrey came out. So that was, I mean, I probably was in late elementary school or early middle school, I would guess, when that came out. So unlike a lot of people, I hadn't even heard of these books before that film came out. So I dove into them a little bit later anyway, as intended, but now going back and reading them as an adult, it's definitely interesting to, I wish I would have made notes of when I was reading them as a younger kid, because I would love to see what I thought of them then versus what I think of them now. I mean, we all know that when it comes to this book, that Judge Strauss is the only one with any damn sense, quite honestly. I mean, we all know it. It's just true. She's got a lovely home. She's kind. She tries really hard not to, like, talk ill of people. She's trying to be really sweet with them and, be there for them. She's just, like, super nice. Even though later on she still is sort of not, like, 100% paying attention like most of the adults, I can understand at least, like, she's better than so many of them just right off the bat. I really wish, things could be different with Justice Strauss, because she really is 100% just like the absolute best adult character, in this book at least. I mean, they meet some other ones that end up being okay, but like Justice Strauss is by far one of the best, and I just, wish things could have ended differently. I know that Mr. Poe is trying really hard to follow their parents' wishes. And so, like, some of this, like, I know we don't talk about this enough, but I think that the Baudelaire parents were not very smart in certain regards. And I know that, those of you that are so familiar with the series are like, okay, but I know, we'll get there in later books. But the thing is that, like, when you think about it, why would you not give them to an actual relative or somebody that they at least knew? Not everybody has relatives close by, I get that. And I understand the parents are like, well, we want them to stay in this city that they know, but like, they've already gone through a really devastating thing by losing their parents. Let it go. That's the least of their problems right now. So that's what's just always been kind of bizarre to me, is that why would you just be like, yeah, we're gonna make sure that you get to, like, your closest relative. And none of these people are actual relatives. There's, like, a whole, this whole hidden plot behind it. And it's a little bit unbelievable for parents who really love their children that much. That's all I'm gonna say. I did have to laugh out loud, though, because, like, as awful as Count Olaf is, there's that moment where he just, like, has wine for breakfast. And God, what a mood, honestly. This already smells so cinnamony. But I do, like, when I sit down and I look at this whole thing, this first story, you gotta remember, like, for the sake of people who are maybe reading along with us for the first time, we are taking this one book at a time. So if we're looking at this as a singular book, I do think that, Poe, 100% to blame. I mean, he is an absolute idiot, first of all. I'm like, how did you even come and be like, how are you even high up in your bank? Like, you're so stupid. He just, like, doesn't see anything. He doesn't notice anything. And, of course, like, I think a big point in this whole series is people not really believing them or being on their side simply because they're children. And it's definitely, like, a comment on maybe... Well, I wouldn't say definitely. I don't know the author's intentions, but maybe it's a comment on how children are treated in our society. I don't know. But Poe just, like, drives me nuts because I just think, how could you be that dumb? Like, how is you as a person could really be that stupid? And I find it to be super obnoxious. But I do also think that their parents are to blame. I feel like had their parents... You know, and again, we're just talking about the first book. We're just going through, like, this particular part of the story. But I just feel like had their parents been like, you know, they need to be with an actual relative or they need to be with a family friend, somebody that they know and are comfortable with, versus going off with a stranger, you know, it would have been a lot harder for this kind of thing to happen. I mean, the whole point of Count Olaf, of course, is that he's an awful person who, you know, treats the children like crap and tracks them down no matter where they are. So, you know... It is what it is, but I do believe that had the parents been a little less weird in their will, the kids probably could have ended up with Justice Strauss, and all of this whole series could have been avoided. I'm not sure I like the way that tastes or not. I'm gonna try it again. No, maybe it's okay. The one I licked off the spoon was a little weird, but I think we're okay. So now I have to flatten these into a 1-inch thick disc, which I'm guessing is probably good here. Maybe I can add a little bit more over to this one. And then they have to chill for an hour before you can start to, like, roll them out and actually bake them, which I find to be really bizarre. I found one recipe for this that wanted you to chill like 3 to 4 hours, and I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. And the person even said that they typically leave theirs overnight. If these turn out bad, then maybe that's the way to go, and maybe I'm just being kind of stingy about my time. But an hour is reasonable. 2 to 3 hours, not so much. Okay, so our dough sat and chilled for actually about an hour and a half. So now I'm gonna have to roll it out here and cut it into little shapes. Honestly, I'm a little surprised with this book that I got as much to talk about as I did. We're done. I don't have anything else to say. Because I know that, you know, these books are short. You know, there's not a whole lot of information in them, at least at first. They will get bigger as we go. But for right now, they're a little short. So I think it'll be interesting to see how it goes going forward. If I feel, you know, like I'm having more to talk about or what. But I think that it'll be interesting to see how this series unrolls and unrolls because it will be different, I think, than what I would maybe expect after having not read it for so long. Okay, my issue with chilling dough is that it just makes it so much harder to roll out when the time comes. Okay, so I thought I was gonna do all trees. Here's my tree. It's really big. But I also have a bell and what I assume is a snowman. So I think I'm going to do some of those as well. I want to use up as much of my dough as possible because I feel like there's a lot of it. And not that I need like 800 cookies out of this, but you know, I feel like we put a lot of time and effort into these, so I want it to go well. I like my little spatula because even though I do flour my surface, I feel like my little spatula makes it easier to get cookies off of the surface and as well as like get parts peeled away. Like this part ended up not very much on the floured surface, so it's a little bit tougher to get it to come up. Okay, here's our first batch. I don't know how well you can see them, but they are ready for the oven. I think now that I've messed with it a little bit, it'll be easier for this to roll out. I mean, I don't want it to like crack or break apart like it literally just did, but just have a little less fat cookies. I am finding that gingerbread cookies are a lot thicker, like they're easier to pick up. Typically when I try to scoop up cookies, they get smashed together. Whereas I feel like these gingerbread cookies, they'll pretty much come up off the surface. I might have to add a little bit more flour before I roll out the next batch, but they're pretty much ready to be scooped. I'm gonna get a lot more in this second batch because I didn't do any trees, and the trees are for sure taking up so much space. Which is fine though, because they're cute. Okay, if you left because of spoilers, go ahead and come back and join us. Please excuse my horribly ugly workstation, but that's what we have, so that's what we're rolling with. Our cookies came together, they chilled, they went into the oven, and they are out. So they've been cooling for a little bit. I've got multiple batches because not everything fits on one tray, of course, with cookies, and I've still got plenty of dough to make. I can definitely make at least 1 or 2 more trays. But we have the first set of cookies have been cooling, so I'm going to grab one and try it out. So I thought I was going to do all trees, but I ended up having a snowman and a bell as well, and I thought that those would come in handy for, you know, those small pieces, because the trees are pretty big. So here's a snowman up close. I decided not to do any icing because I am always kind of on the fence about how I even feel about gingerbread myself. I'm not really always sure that I like it, so I figured before I get to decorating and trying my skills at that, I'd rather just like make the cookies and see if I can even pull that off. I'm not in love with it, and I'm not really sure why. I don't know if it's because I'm not a huge fan of gingerbread myself and I kind of have to take it in small doses, or if I did something wrong. But at the same time, it does taste like gingerbread. Maybe it's just that it's not as strong. I don't know. Maybe I made a recipe where the gingerbread isn't like right in your face the whole time, or like the gingerbready taste. Obviously, gingerbread is not like a spice, but like, you know, the gingerbready taste. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's just not as aggressive, or maybe I'm making them too thick and they need to be a little bit thinner. I don't really know. Again, it's hard for me to judge because I'm not a huge fan of gingerbread. I can take it in small doses, so it'll be interesting to hear what other people have to say. But I would probably still say that this was a success because I think that they're edible. I think they taste like gingerbread, and so honestly, I think they came out just fine. I do highly recommend this series. If you've never started a series of unfortunate events, you've probably heard about it for quite a bit of your life, or you know, maybe this is the first time you're hearing about it, but I highly recommend it. Keep in mind it is a children's series, so it's not very difficult to read, and you're not going into it with like some profound ending. But it's fun, it's adventurous, the characters are cute, like the main characters, the adults are idiots, but the main characters are cute, and they're really smart, really endearing children, so they're fun to read about. If you don't have that much time on your hands, you could just watch the Netflix series with Neil Patrick Harris. Personally, I was a fan. I thought they did a nice job. But, of course, you know, you can disagree with me if you want, but I thought it was really nice. I always highly recommend reading books rather than watching stuff. But, you know, the story's the story, so get it how you need to get it. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. If you had a good time, please like and subscribe. I try to be here for you every week, and I am always a little bit of fun and a little bit of a hot mess. So I try to make it entertaining for you. If you want, you can follow me on Instagram. That's where I post what I'm currently reading, so if you'd like to keep up with my reading journey, you'll be able to see what books I'm currently on. Thank you so much to those of you that watch every week and have subscribed and follow and like and all of that. I am so grateful for you guys, and I really, really appreciate your time. You guys are the absolute best. If you have any recipes or book recommendations, please feel free to throw those my way. I'm always looking for them, especially if you have any Christmas traditional stuff from other non-American cultures. I would love to have that. I may totally butcher it, keep that in mind, but I love to bake and learn about other cultures, so please, please, please send those my way. Thank you guys so much for hanging out, and I'll see you next time.